This is the 24th of January. Our Media Center of Ukraine Forum begins its work. My name is Svetlana Nechaparenko, and now we are speaking about Lithuanian-Ukrainian project for the involvement of donors and school construction, future school for Ukraine. Our speakers are Arturas Žarnovskis, Program Manager of Co-Create Future of Ukraine, Central Project Management Agency, Lithuania. Unfortunately, Mr. Minister couldn't join us, so today we have Deputy Minister of Education and Science, Andriy Stashkin, Mustafa Nayem, Head of the Recovery Agency of Ukraine, and Anna Novosad, educational activists of SAVED. So,
Lithuania helps Ukraine a lot in different ways. And what are Lithuania's priorities in rebuilding Ukraine in educational sector? And what is the role of the Future School for Ukraine project in rebuilding of Ukrainian school infrastructure?
Good morning. Nice to be here. And yeah, Lithuania is quite active in the rebuilding of educational sector. And soft activities and hard activities and mid-term, long-term perspective. So we have already rebuilt some objects in Irpin, now in Mykolaiv, and we will soon finish one big school in Borodenka. But with this future school of Ukraine, we are looking forward, in more mid-term perspective. And our goal is to create technical design project that can be used in different places, and the possible scale up for the rebuilding, and to use that adaptive technical design project in different places. And it will be real support for the municipalities, for the communities to have good quality technical design project, to attract donors, to save time and to save money. Because we understand the scope of the task and the scale of the damages.
Thank you. Pan
Andriy, we do understand that as for the civilians, including Russia is destroying educational institutions. How many children lost access to education, and what do we need to do to restore access? And what's the role of foreign investments in the process? Yes, thank you for the question, Svetlana. I'm happy to welcome all the participants of the press conference. Really, the war has significantly damaged the schools and made access impossible to the daily time of tuition. And the international research on educational losses shows that because of the absence of access to high-quality education, if we speak about destroyed infrastructure in Ukraine, only schools, more than 200 schools are destroyed and more than 1,600 schools were damaged. And just calculating that, relatively, that's every 7th school in Ukraine was damaged, at least damaged, which definitely leads to absence of access to education among children. As of now, we have approximately 900,000 children who are studying remotely. They cannot visit schools, so they use remote technologies. And under the conditions of war, it is the challenge both for the teachers and for the pupils, the students. That is why one of the objectives of this project involving is to provide the restoration of the schools. Not the one which used to be, but the new one. We shouldn't restore the destroyed walls, but we should reconstruct the new space. That is why this Lithuanian project is really relevant today, and it will give us the opportunity to have the typical project of construction which can be used in any region of Ukraine for the schools which will be reconstructed. Thank you, Mustafa. You are the partner of this project. The Agency on Recovery is the partner of Lithuania in the implementation of this project. Please tell more about that. Why is that important for the recovery of the school infrastructure, and how should this recovery take place according to your vision? First of all, thank you for, in fact, our cooperation with the Lithuanian government. We met with Arturas, and we have lots of common projects, not only this one. Why is that important? Let me explain according to the very simple example for it to be comprehensible. So, if we ask any community or any expert in Ukraine to develop the project of the school, this would be the same school which we constructed for many years. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just like it is, because the perspective to create new schools does not exist. For many years, no one constructed new schools. We didn't have the new standards. Even if partially they existed, those were just dotty projects, and the ones which were reconstructed were the standards of the Soviet Union, the standards which had the same dining rooms, the same halls, which you could see, and we had that, all of us had that in our childhood. But we saw how the normal school looks like, the inclusive school looks like, the efficient school where the children can study. In different spheres, moreover, they could have different locations to implement these or those educational processes. So to create the new school and the new standards, we need to develop them. We need to do that all over the country. Of course, now, if we look at the state of the communities, there is no money. There is no money for the design project opportunities and for any of the developments. So the principle of build big better, which the government announced as of now, so far is a dream, only a dream. So this dream to be implemented, and to fund this project, we decided to provide the international competition, according to which the projects, the typical projects, will be selected. It won't be just one school. We wouldn't have the same school all over the country. Those will be typical schools, according to which we'll create different schools in different locations. What is a typical project? When the budget documentation is the beginning stage, the budget documentation will be developed, as I said, according to the competition, and it will be with the wide free access for all of the communities. And then each of the community or city can take this budget documentation, adapt it for its region, depending on the scale, on the number of people, the locality. They would connect to that, and they begin the construction, and they will definitely understand that this is the highly efficient project, that it's an energy efficient and inclusive project. And also it's important that this will be the school according to the new standards. Again, it does not mean that we'll have typical schools all over the country. Everybody will have an opportunity to adapt them, but the standards of construction, of materials, of the approach, what and how should be located will be new. And moreover, it is foreseen in the project that partially the equipment in these projects will be also involved, considering the budget solutions in these schools. It will be done differently in each region. They wouldn't be similar. Those will be unique projects. It is so important to make it as quickly as possible. Let me explain why. Because the project of recovery is ongoing in many regions. And many regions already are trying to reconstruct the schools which exist already. So the project and design solutions will be adapted to the existing schools, which, for instance, were just partially destroyed or damaged. We can take and implement these projects partially. For us, as an agency which deals with recovery of projects all over the country, it's incredibly important because it decreases the time, and we don't need to invent every day why we do it in this way, not a different way, because the solutions will be well thought through and developed by the international experts, by the results of the competition, not because somebody wanted to give it to some company. This will be the open project, and everybody will be able to assess it. So again, thank you for the cooperation, for all the work we're doing together, and I hope that when we develop the budget documentation together, we will see those typical projects and will be able to implement it not only in Kyiv region, because now it is focused so far there, but all over the country where those schools really exist. And the last point, why it is important, and why it is not that it's just an architecture. It's about construction. I think that all of us communicate with our citizens from abroad, And if during the polling and surveying all the people who are living abroad or are forced to stay abroad, there are 3 points which are important for them. First of all, protection for their children. Not a single family will come back to Ukraine if they don't have a school where their children can go to, and when they understand that the child will be safe and secure. Even if we'll have job places, even if we will have security, people will not come back because the children are the most important for them. So the educational infrastructure, which would be able to protect children from any threats, is the basic thing which will begin the process of the comeback of our citizens from abroad. Thank you. Anna, I'm interested in your opinion as an educational activist. Who told that I am an educational activist? So what should the modern schools look like? Which criteria they should comply with to create such schools? Thank you. If I may, I would correct. I'm the co-founder of the charitable foundation Save Ed, and we're working on the restoration of access to education in the communities which were affected by war. First of all, I'd like to thank Lithuania, in particular the agency, that they're practically helping to the recovery of education in Ukraine. If we look at the statistical data, you can see millions of dollars which are invested to restore education, but very often those are endless trainings. What's important, under the conditions of destroying educational infrastructure, and when the children, a huge number of children, 4 million, are staying in Ukraine, physical recovery is critical, especially in the communities where at least partially we can come back to offline training. Lithuania does not pose the question, why do you restore it if the full-scale war is going on? Of course, we need to do that because the people are living here. Your question about the educational component, well, a bit of background from me. Now, within the foundation activity, I'm traveling along the regions which are affected and are still affected by war. Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk regions. I can see with my own eyes how the situation looks in these communities. Mustafa said a lot about the technical part, how we should organize the approach towards construction. Let me add, within this competition, a bit of the educational aspect. If we look at the map of deoccupied communities and at the map of destroyed objects of educational infrastructure, the majority of all of that is in the smaller rural communities, not in the bigger cities. Well, of course, there are substantial destroyed objects in Chernihiv or Kharkiv, but the region, especially under occupation, was affected more. And these are the communities which, on the one hand, are not financially capable or less financially capable. For instance, Chernihiv city would be able to reconstruct a school, but Mikhailo Kotyubinsky community, where the Lyceum was destroyed, wouldn't be able to do that. The same about Mykolaiv region. Mykolaiv city has much more investment than Pervomaisk community, which was destroyed for 80%. Besides that, still we have, in these little communities, we still see, though a small but still substantial number of children. And there is a certain paradox. Everybody would like to restore the schools where there are many children, because you can cover more, you can show a nice picture, but somehow not that many people would like to deal with rural areas. I visited for multiple times the deoccupied villages where 130 children in Chervona Dolina, or in Bereznovata 700, they don't have 4 schools. In Shirokino there are no schools at all. In the smaller settlements they just... This is the endless number of schools, but still there are no children. This is my long lead to the competition. If you look at the requirements, it is understandable that it would be the hub school. This would be, what is the hub school? This is the school which in fact serves as a hub to bring children from the surrounding areas where there are not that many children. So this will be the project which will be a priority and needed during the reconstruction of educational infrastructure. So, as for me, we need to prioritize the ones who are less capable to help themselves. Those are the rural areas. That is why this adaptive project will be a kind of a hub school, which would be when we'll have the elementary school separate, which complies with the reform of the Ukrainian legislation, and the children will be brought to the school, and even there will be the conditions to stay there. So the children who will go from a long distance and will have to stay there, they will be able to do that. And finally, the war is going on, but the Ministry of Education, and Andriy may tell more, is still working on the implementation of the reform. No one closed it. The new Ukrainian school is moving on, and soon we'll have the transition to the senior school, 3-year school. With such demography like now, and with this scale of destroyed objects, it will be more complicated to implement it 3 times more. So the recovery of the infrastructure of senior schools, as this project is an important example how we can implement the approach to the 3-year senior school in the regions where there are not that many children as in the cities. Thank you. Is there any understanding where we'll implement the first pilot projects and where would be the modern schools constructed? I don't know who this question is for.
Have any concrete locations yet, because now we are concentrated on this technical design project. As I said, it could be implemented in different places, and Mr. Mustafa told in simple way, but the aim of the project, maybe I can only add that the process is also very important. I mean, the transparent, to include international experts and to do it in the right way through the technical design projects, through the public procurements and competitions, because I believe Mr. Mustafa knows even better that we have some expectations sometimes to create technical design project within 1 month, but the reality is that it will be with a lot of mistakes, with a lot of not good quality decisions, even safety, and not only money. So now we are concentrated on to how to create a good quality technical design project, and it was mentioned that it could be used everywhere, in different places. Hopefully in Crimea we will build the new school according to this technical.
For our fellow Maidan brothers who were with me here on Maidan in January 2014, when we were working to free our motherland, Ukraine, from tyranny and injustice. Serhiy Nagoyan, Mikhailo Zizanevsky, Roman Senyik, Vyacheslav Veremy, Yuri Verbitsky, Roman Ratatushny. Thank you. Mustafa, in the press centre of the trade union building on Maidan, you spoke of the need for Ukraine to rid itself of Soviet education and archaic industrial practices and to embrace the modernisations of industry of the European Union. I spoke to you on the need for Ukraine to adopt a modern trades education system and for the need to teach our civil engineers, architects, construction workers, labourers, electricians, welders, railway workers, carpenters and other tradespeople, etc. I have worked in most of these sectors to a high degree of competency myself in Australia and New Zealand, and whom have a very strict set of standards and compliance codes. In the last 10 years, I have observed the complete lack of modern methodologies being employed in these sectors, of poor management, corruption, faulty buildings and constructions, and low standards that exist all over Ukraine in thousands of building sites that I have visited. As you are now the head of the State Agency for Restoration and Infrastructure, how do you and the agency intend to address these deficiencies and have our workforce educated and modernised to rebuild Ukraine to such standards that I know and expect, so that we do not waste resources in rebuilding with past inadequacies?
I would ask you to close it to a question, please.
I also direct this question to Oksen Lisovyi.
Thank you. Look, no one is hiding any problems. We really understand that we feel the lack of experts, the lack of expertise as well. And it's okay, because not a single country in the EU, not a single country on the continent had the experience of recovery of such a scale. Another issue is that the country, as a state, has never constructed as much as it is constructing now. We never ordered such a scale of construction before, because we never had so many destroyed objects, and mostly, secondly, it was the part of private sector. Really, Ukraine has the lack of expertise, you are right. If someone expecting that we will somehow find the expertise, some cool experts during the war, who will be trained to create cool projects and it will be very beautiful, it would be naive and wrong to say, and we would be deceiving ourselves. What do we need to do for that? First of all, and I would speak to our international partners now, and to our partners as well. First of all, to the international ones. The salaries which we have of the state officials who are dealing with development is the salary which does not allow us to provide efficient recovery. We need to understand that. Now, the main expert in the regions gets 8,000 hryvnia. Could you please explain what money can this person live for, and to provide tender procedures for recovery? We are pushing the whole state apparatus to corruption. We are neglecting the people who are living in the regions and who are dealing with the tender procedures. Secondly, as for the expertise which has to be concentrated, all of the countries which have been recovered, we started the experience of Japan and Pakistan and Malaysia and Indonesia, where similar points have happened. Not the same, but similar. Not a single country can find experts to reconstruct at such a scale. Even now, if you ask our foreign experts, are there any experts who can recover the whole city or the region? They don't exist in Europe, because we never faced that. Since the World War II, such expertise does not exist as focused in the one place. But it's important to create such expertise centers. We need a center when all the people, or the main experts who understand what energy efficiency is, who understand what inclusion is, who understand about new materials, new approaches to construction, new approaches to efficiency of reconstruction in materials, it has to be focused in one place, and this expertise should be at the state level. It should be preserved and collected and concentrated. So what is happening now, what we see, unfortunately? The international projects which are now working in Ukraine are hiring these experts. For one project, the salary of this expert is 3, 5, 7, 10 times higher than the employee of the state service, and after that we are just losing the expertise. So I would now speak to the international organizations who are dealing with donor projects. Please, if you would like Ukraine to really become a country which would be able to concentrate this and accumulate this expertise, and to do that sustainable way, do not disseminate this expertise. Create state institutions, help the state institutions to concentrate this expertise in the same place. We have solutions, we understand how it should be done. We are going in our agency to create our own center, which will deal first of all with the procurement process. It means that at the one place we'll be able to concentrate the expertise of the people who are checking the budget documentation, the projects, and that we really understand that those projects wouldn't be with some hidden jobs. They would be really transparent with normal prices and so on. And if I show each of you the budget documentation, believe me, you will not understand what is happening in the project. Even if we do it transparently with the tender procedure, not that many people will be able to understand, looking at these documents, where hidden jobs are there, why this or that concrete is used, and so on. We need experts for that, who have to consider these projects. One project needs at least 2 or 3 people and 3 to 7 weeks. Just imagine the scale of the projects which are ongoing in Ukraine and how many people we need if it is disseminated all over the country. So we need to create such a center which would be able to check these projects, who would be able to provide the professional assessment of these projects even after the official expertise, and only after that it should be implemented. And secondly, the tender procedure itself, of the procurement itself. We cannot deal with the open mode of these tender procedures. We cannot deal with market consultations. Without the involvement of the market, we will find ourselves in the situation when our country is restored by 12 companies with their acquaintances in the state officials. Unfortunately, in some regions, we already have such a situation. We think that it should be open. We developed the methodology on recovery, the methodology on civil construction. This methodology is acknowledged as one of the best in the country. I hope that soon it will be recommended for all of the other state authorities. And it's not just methodology on paper, it already showed certain results. You know that according to the results of the last year, as for the agency, we got an award of Prozoro for the efficiency of these bids. Just because of the simple reason, it's not about high technologies, it's not about magic. Very simple. The participants of our tender procedures are much more numerous than in other tender procedures, because we are having consultations, we are speaking to the market, we are explaining and providing all the documentation for the tender procedure. We are never hiding anything which would be necessary for the contractor to recover. And the last point about the expertise and how we can cope with this challenge. Many people went to the front line. They are at war. Very many people went there. We are losing dozens of people who are working at these platforms. I don't know what logics is used by the authorities who are mobilizing people, but when the military commissariat employee comes and takes 30 people from the construction site, including engineers, including the heads of the groups. And those are not just objects, but those could be critical infrastructure objects like a substation or a bridge. When we are reconstructing bridges closer to the front line and they just mobilize the employees. I don't mind that people are going to the war, it's okay, but we need to prioritize that. Partially, we could reserve those people, but it looks a bit weird now. So maybe we need to prioritize mobilization process, because the people who can do construction within the military service or within any other solution, they should deal with construction. Because we would be in the situation when, after the World War II, only women were at the construction sites. I'm sorry, but the women cannot cope with all of those types of works. And the final part, about the involvement of foreign expertise. Not that many experts from other countries are coming here who would like and can work. Just imagine an engineer who is working in Japan or in France or in the UK, and we would ask them to come to Ukraine and to go to Tsirkuny of Kharkiv region and to develop something there. So I would ask the experts to concentrate their attention. Maybe they should get in 2 groups. We are creating such groups, trying to involve them, and at least we could have the expertise of the projects which we are developing. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions left? Good day, Ukrinform, Yulia Bakumova. Could you please tell what number of typical projects are you planning to get, or at least expecting for? Will they be compulsory for the communities in the recovery of the educational infrastructure? And you also said that this is the international competition. Why is it international? Why isn't it done among Ukrainian architects? Will there be Ukrainian experts having an opportunity to take part in this competition? Thank you. I can answer in a nutshell. International does not mean that we exclude Ukrainian expert. It means that it is also international, first of all. As for the number, my colleague will tell more about that. As for its being obligatory or compulsory, if you ask any community how much money they have for the projects, they would say 0. So I think it wouldn't be compulsory. We cannot oblige you to construct. Those will be proposals. If someone constructs better according to the Soviet standards, it may be, why not? Let us assume. But if it is the list of the projects, the communities will be using them themselves because they will be saving money, first of all.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe to add that the international competition means that also international jury will be there with world-famous architects, and it can not only to decide on the best idea and the best technical design project, but also additionally attract international donors, because all donors want to finance good projects and good quality projects. And yeah, as Mustafa mentioned, small communities do not have any chance to attract, high-level architects from Ukraine or from all over the world. One of the conditions in this Future School of Ukraine project is to include local architects. It means Ukrainian architects, because, as Mustafa mentioned, it is not only the result is important, but the process, because that's why we are working together with the agency in close collaboration. Agency is not a beneficiary, but our real partner. We are working together because the final result will be not only technical design projects, but then lessons learned for the future, for the, typical hospital or typical, library or something. So that's why the process also matters. Yeah.
Дякую.
Thank you. Are there any other questions left? Hello, Denis Lushko, Kharkiv Media. Maybe the question is more to Mustafa. In Kharkiv, really, we have a huge problem with schools. Offline training exists just within the underground of Kharkiv, and that's it. So, among the typical projects, do you plan the construction or the design of underground schools, or at least enough of those schools? They should be constructed underground. Now the first school underground is being constructed. I hope it will be constructed. I understand that this project would be necessary not only for Kharkiv, but for Zaporizhia as well, for the cities where 30 or 40 seconds are just the time of the incoming shell. And today, Kharkiv was already shelled at the educational institutions as well. So do you plan underground schools, or at least some number of underground schools? Look, this is the standard, first of all. According to the standards of construction, the educational institutions have to have shelters. And again, we really need to speak about that, because very often we say that what we say is a shelter is not a shelter. Those are just basements. Yes, it may protect you. It is still much better than nothing, but still I think that in the future schools, we really should have shelters which could be used for the children to be really protected. And again, let me come back to what I started with. We are all here, the majority of us have children. So who of us will give a child to the school if you are not sure that when you are at work, during the air raid alarm, the child is protected? So all of those schools, of course, should be shelters. They should be protected. But what's important, we shouldn't get back to the Soviet standard, when we had just basements, which were abandoned, and nothing happened there for years. We are just now opening them, and it turns out that it's impossible not only to stay there, it's impossible to get through those basements, because they're full of pipes and other litter. There was the idea that those shelters or those premises should be of double use. It could be simultaneously a shelter during a threat, but it can be used as a gym, it can be used as an educational auditorium, it can be used as an area where the people can stay and spend some time, both the children and the teachers. So I think that they will definitely exist, but that is why this is the competition. That according to the outcomes of this competition, we'll select the best project, which will also offer protection and training. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions left? Then I thank our guests. Let me remind you that we were speaking about Lithuanian Ukrainian project for involvement of donors and construction of schools, the Future School of Ukraine. If you need additional information about the project, you can take the handout in English or in Ukrainian here on the table. The Media Center Ukrinform will go on its work at 12, and we will be speaking about war crimes of Russian occupiers against religious communities and priests. Stay with us, please.